Well, UCF season comes to an end after taking a 41-21 loss to BYU. What exactly happened in the game, especially early in the game, that made you think UCF could win? And where does UCF go from here? Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Charge On. As always, I am your host, Sean Green. And as always, we're sponsored by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, BYU did it. The line was 17.5. They won by 20. And if you took BYU 17.5, you probably made some money. And hopefully you did it on FanDuel. They have the best lines, best props, best everything out there when it comes to betting on sports. NBA, NHL, NFL, college football, college basketball. Wherever you want to do it on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and a proud sponsor of the Charge On podcast. So, obviously in my living room, I'm recording this right after the live watch along, which I did end early, not as early as the Texas Tech game, but we ended it about 6 minutes to go in the game. And I want to start off by saying this, because I think it's going to get lost in translation a little bit because of, it ended up being a semi-blowout. 20 points is 3 scores for the most part. It's a blowout. I'm proud of the team. I am. I'm proud of the guys. I'm proud of the coaching staff. They went into a tough situation, one of the toughest situations, toughest places to play in the Big 12 Conference, and made it a game. Made it a game early and made BYU work for it early. UCF went up 14-0. Offense was humming. BYU couldn't do anything to stop it. The defense on their first possession got BYU in a second and long, third and long, and got them to punt it back to UCF. And then UCF went down the field and scored basically immediately to make it 14-0 in that first quarter. And it was the best the offense has looked all year. Taven Jackson looked really good. The offense was firing on all cylinders. They were able to run the football. They were passing it wherever they wanted. Wade and Charles was making plays. And yes, at that point, we're like, okay, this might be a game. But as I said, I will be devil's advocate. And I said it's a long game, and there's a lot of time. And BYU is a good team, and they're going to score. And I said, listen, BYU is going to score points. It's going to come down to, can you keep up with them? Can you keep up with the way and the amount that they score points today? And unfortunately, UCF couldn't do it. The defense, I think the injuries have caught up to them the past couple weeks, and I don't like to blame it on injuries. I think, the defense was bad today. It was. There was not really any point that the defense could stop BYU. Bear Bachmeier had an incredible game. I was nervous coming in about, the rushing. I said, listen, UCF is really good at stopping the run. BYU is going to want to run the football. They ran it 40 times for 118 yards. If you would have told me before the game UCF would hold them to 118 yards on the ground on 40 carries, I would have told you UCF is going to be in this game. The problem is, Bear Bachmeier was 21 of 25 for 289 yards and a touchdown. There was at no point that Bear Bachmeier was throwing a ball where I thought it's not going to get completed. And that's when you kind of knew game was going to be rough. Kingston killed UCF, six catches for 126 yards and a touchdown. Ryan killed them, 5 catches for 85 yards on 5 targets. They were bad in the red zone. BYU went 4 of 5. Had a 35-minute time of possession. They were okay on third down, offensively and defensively. But, stats aside, and we'll talk about UCF's offense in a little bit, this was the epitome of UCF season. Scott Frost talked about it this week, how they have not been able to put together a full game. They play good in quarters, but when you say, hey, can you put a full 60 minutes together, this team has not shown or proven that they can do that. And it's disappointing and it's frustrating and it sucks because you feel bad for the guys and you feel bad for the coaching staff because you look at it and you said UCF should have been in this game. It was a 3-point game at halftime. It was 14-17 at halftime. And I said, look, if UCF, they need two things to happen. They need the defense to come out, get a stop on BYU, and you need the offense to go down and score a field goal or a touchdown. Because all the momentum in that second quarter was with BYU. Ever since the trick play interception that Dwayne Thomas threw, BYU had the momentum. So I said, you got to find a way to take the wind out of their sails a little bit and to say, no, this is going to be a dogfight for the rest of the game. What happened? You open the third quarter, they go down, get a touchdown, and then you go on offense, 3-and-out. That's kind of been the story of the UCF season. They're just not good enough to really play a full 60 minutes. I think if you're Scott Frost, you know that. And you're, I think, more content in understanding, like, we are better. We are going to be fine once we get everybody's ducks in a row. And what I mean by that is we need everything worth firing on all cylinders. You need the offense, you need the defense, you need the special teams all working together. Like today, you let up a 55-yard punt return touchdown. Granted, I feel like it was a bad punt, but the punt coverage was also awful. Little things like that. Like you lose by 20, you give up a punt return touchdown, that's 7 points that you're just giving. Now, granted, they missed a couple field goals. It could have looked a lot worse, right? It could have been a 47-21 game if they made their field goals. But ultimately, UCF has proven that they cannot put a full game together. But I think I'm proud of the way they fought today. I don't take this loss. I look at this loss way better than I looked at Texas Tech. Texas Tech, you looked like you have no business being on the field. Here, you showed some fight. Now, there is the no moral victory aspect where it's like you still got beat by 20. And yes, you did get beat by 20 to the number 11 team in the country, but UCF has a lot of work to do. They still have a small chance to make a bowl game. I want to be very clear. The likelihood of them making a bowl game is slim to none. But at the end of the day, we'll kind of talk next week about big picture and stuff like that. But I think all in all, what UCF has accomplished this year was what they set out to accomplish. They didn't accomplish everything, but they did just enough to where you feel like the program is headed in the right direction. Now let's talk offense. Taven Jackson started off on a heater. Taven Jackson finished the game 21 of 37 for 232 and 2 touchdowns. The first 2 offensive drives, I was like, Taven's dialed. And somebody in the live watch-along did make a good comment and said Taven is playing for his job next season. Like he's putting tape out there. And I'm like, that's actually a good point. Taven is showing like, hey, I can compete with the number 11 team in the country. I can make this work. And he did do that. Taven was incredible in the first quarter. And I want to be very careful because all of the problems today were not on Taven. And this is where I think like people can get upset and say Taven stinks. We don't want Taven, blah, blah. And again, I agree. I think Taven doesn't fit the system that this coaching staff wants. Taven does not have a lot of help on that offensive line. And that's just not his truth. There are a lot of times Taven's getting bull rushed by multiple pass rushers, and he has to make something out of nothing, especially on that first drive. There were times Taven made a good play out of a play that should have been a loss. And I think that's where I've seen a lot of people say that it's been worse than last year. The quarterback position has been worse this year than last year. I highly disagree. I think a lot of people have very short memories of just how bad the quarterback play was last year with KJ Jefferson and just how bad the quarterback play was that we had. Taven is not a bad quarterback. Taven is an average quarterback that does not really fit this scheme, does not really fit this system. You need a guy that can really get out of the pocket and run, especially with an offensive line that just is not that good. Today, he had a really good first quarter, and then it kind of went downhill. And then that's not all on him. That's on the offensive line. That is some on him. In that third offensive drive, before the interception that Dwayne Thomas threw, he threw a deep pass to A.G. Adaye. And, I mean, A.G. had 2 or 3 steps on the guy, and Taven overthrew him. That could have been that's a touchdown swing right there. Instead of 21-7, ended up being 14-14. So I think those are the things you look at and you say, listen, I think Taven is going to be really good on I think he should go to like the American or Mountain West, like a non-Power 4 school, go start and go light up. Because I think he needs to be in a system where the pocket passer is how they built it. And unfortunately, especially with this team, it's not built like that. And the offensive line isn't built to withstand. Obviously, running the football was not good today. 19 carries for 42 yards. I think that is the thing that really we need. We've taken away all season, but we need to take away now is UCF needs to go figure out their running game. They have not been able to run the ball to save their life. They did figure out 3rd and 1s and 3rd and short situations running the football today, which I think should give you a lot of comfort. Hopefully next season, they kind of finally have figured out how to run the football. But let's not kid ourselves. Again, today was just another bad day running the football. They did a lot with Dwayne Thomas, which I think worked a lot of the time. But this is something that needs to be addressed in the portal. You need to go get a bell cow back that you believe is going to be able to do more with less. Be able to push a pile without a really good offensive line. And I think Miles just hadn't had the year that he wanted. It's been really disappointing. And it's not all on Miles. But, they need to really go shore up their running game. Because as of right now, it doesn't matter who your quarterback is. If you can't run the football, you're setting your quarterback up for disaster. But besides that, I think there's a lot of good things that happened today. They were much better on 3rd down, much better on 4th down. I think the play calls were really good today. Not as many stupid penalties. They still had a little too much, but it wasn't anything crazy. They were 3 for 3 in the red zone when they got down there. They scored. They had 4 sacks today. BYU does not allow sacks. Now, granted, they're a little beat up on the offensive line, but still, 4 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, I think is really good against this BYU team. Lewis Carter and Cole Kozlowski had a day. Lewis Carter, you need to make sure you keep. He is a guy that is going to help you in football games next year. And Cole Kozlowski, I wish he had more eligibility because, man, I love Cole Kozlowski. I think NFL he will do, if he can get picked up by an NFL team, I think he's going to do really well. I think he's that good. But besides that, look, all in all, I think it's the end of a season, right? This is the end of this 2025 season, a season that most of us, we got what we expected. I know some of us wanted a bowl game. I know a lot of us expected a little bit more, but you're building towards the future. And UCF got 5 wins this year. They went 5-7. 1 win away from a bowl game. You had multiple opportunities to get that extra win this year. Houston comes to mind. Kansas comes to mind. Hell, Cincinnati comes to mind. I mean, if you just had any resemblance of an offense against Cincinnati, those are games where you look back and you say UCF had their opportunities. But with that being said, you didn't execute well enough. I think the steps that need to be in place next year is keep most of your people on defense, right? That's coaches and players that have eligibility, right? Find the quarterback that you think is going to be your guy. Doesn't necessarily need, obviously we got 2 freshmen signing early, so that's important, but find a transfer quarterback that you believe fits your system to a T. Find a top tier running back that you can go pay a good chunk of money. To be honest, I would rather, and I know this might sound crazy, I'd rather find the best running back in the portal or a top 5 running back, pay him. Quarterback-wise, I'd rather start a young kid. Just start him young. Maybe that sounds stupid. but I just don't think UCF is going to be able to afford a top-tier portal quarterback compared to a top-tier running back. I think UCF needs to change the way that they are thinking. Granted, I know they're going to go get a portal quarterback. They're going to spend a good chunk of money on it, but you need to get a couple running backs. And I know they've got some young guys. Like, they got Stacey Gage, they got Tavion Swint, they got AG. You need to go get a running back that you can trust immediately and then work those guys in with them. So you need that. You need to shore up your offensive line. The offensive line needs help. The offensive line needs a couple bodies. And you need to find an offensive line coach. Obviously, that is, you had a good one, but unfortunately, the circumstances that happened. And nobody's happy about it. And it's a very sad thing, but you got to go find an offensive line coach. And I do give those guys credit. Like, this season was probably very difficult to manage. So you do have to take that into account. And then at the end of the day, improve. Again, I don't think they're going to get to a bowl game. Obviously, they only have 5 wins, so they can't in general. But it's the factor of they don't have enough 6-6 teams. We'll see what happens. I just want the bowl game for the extra practices. I think that would really help UCF, especially getting their true freshmen on campus to have a couple practices before spring. But all in all, I think it was a solid season. They're going in the right direction. And I know it sucks. I know it hurts. I know UCF hasn't been good for a minute. And then it's 3 straight years where you went 6 wins, 5 wins, 4 wins, 6 wins, 4 wins, 5 wins. But I think you can be happy to know that UCF made the change when they did. They are now moving towards the future, and they're not looking into the past, and they're moving forward. So the goal is that this is your worst season with Scott Frost back. 5-7 should be your worst season. It should only go up from here, and that's going to be on the coaching staff to figure that out, recruit well, find players in the portal you need, and make it all work out. And we'll see what happens next season. Guys, that's going to do it. I appreciate you tuning in this season. It means a lot to me. It's our 4th season. We're not planning on stopping anytime soon. What I will say is, if you are new to our channel, appreciate you finding us, but we post throughout the rest of the year. Obviously, during the season, we post 2 times a week. During the off season, we go down to 1. So next week, we will have an episode dropping on Friday. I'll kind of let you know what that's going to be. We're going to wait until kind of midweek to kind of figure out how that's all going to work, or what we want to talk about, whether it's recruiting, whether it's kind of a recap of the season and stuff like that. But we will continue posting. So please subscribe, like, share, do all that you do. We greatly appreciate it. And as always, we're sponsored by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, guys. The college football season may be over for UCF, but it's not over for a lot of other teams. If you want to make some money for the rest of this college football season, use FanDuel. Best lines, best props out there. They have the best for NBA, NHL, NFL. All of it is on FanDuel. So go ahead, use FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, and a proud sponsor of the Charge On podcast. Guys, we appreciate you. Thank you for another great season. And we'll see you very soon. We're not going anywhere, like I said. This has been Charge On, presented by FanDuel. We'll see you guys next week.